Welcome to Technado.
Welcome to another episode of Technado. I'm your host, Sophie Goodwin, and I am very, very excited about this episode because I did a whole lot of research leading up to this one, and we're going to cover some fun stuff today. But we'll get into all that later. Happy 4th for those of you that celebrate it, because this will air after the 4th, I think. To my left is Mr. Anthony Sequeira, filling in for Don once again. How are you,
Yes,
Anthony?
indeed. In the Don chair, feeling very intelligent, and great. 2 Technados in a row. I'm thrilled about that.
Awesome. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm glad
you guys
you're
have
thrilled.
done 700 in a row. I've got 2 in a row.
Hey man, I'm in your corner here. I'm still learning, so I totally get you. And of course, Daniel.
That would be me.
He requires no introduction, so I don't give him one.
No.
And you know who he is. Cool. All right. Thank you for that, Daniel.
The most non-introduction introduction that has ever happened on Technado. Hey, what's up?
I appreciate your help on that one. Thank you for pushing me along.
Chained to the table. Someone help me, please.
So, like I said, we got some really fun stuff that I think we're going to be covering today. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. Well, maybe not fun for the people involved in the story. It's fun for me, though.
Well, give the good folks out there a little context, right? Is Don is away and the mice will play.
Yeah. So, like Dad's out of town.
So, right. So, Sophia and I got to pick the articles this week.
Yes.
It's like full on.
Yes.
And we were like, hey, let's just do things that interest us.
We're going to have some fun
I'm
with
sure
this
we'll
one.
never get the reins again because of this, but
We're just going to ask forgiveness instead of permission.
That's it.
So we're going to jump right in. We've got some fun tech news during the first half of the show today. We'll start with a segment called Behind Bars.
Break the law.
Yeah, break the law. So we're going to start with this story from the Hacker News. EncroChat bust leads to 6,558 criminals arrests and 900 million euro seizure. So the bust itself happened back in, I believe, 2020, but just now we're getting all the numbers of this stuff. So there's a whole list in this article of like all the suspects, the total years of imprisonment, the total cash that was confiscated, and a lot of drugs. Are we surprised? No, we're not. Because EncroChat's mainly used what, for like organized crime?
So it was funny. You kind of like hear about these things. I'm like, what exactly is EncroChat's business? Let me make sure that I get it straight from them, which I couldn't do. So I went to Wikipedia, and I'm sure that's the best source possible.
Sure.
And Wikipedia says EncroChat was a Europe-based communications network and service provider that offered modified smartphones, allowing encrypted communications among subscribers. I'm like, well, that sounds cool. I mean, I'm huge. Encryption's good, privacy good, right? It was primarily used by organized crime members to plan criminal activities. Well, there's that. And then one might make the argument, and I think that argument has been made, that EncroChat was developed specifically for organized crime, for criminal activity. Maybe not organized crime specifically, but for criminal activity. They're like, hey, there's a whole market out there of people that probably don't want their communications easily tapped upon, snooped upon. Maybe we should create a business model based off of that. And I feel with this lovely article that we have announcing all that was seized from them, there's a strong case to be made that that's exactly what EncroChat was all about, was trying to service that specific market. Because yes, as we see, there were 6,658 arrests. I mean, that's enough for how many prisons, right? Just for this. We've got 900 million in euros. So that is...
It's close to $1 billion in
right.
dollars.
Have we not passed the billion mark?
It's about 900.
I don't know where the exchange rate is at this point.
It's about $980 million as of right now.
Right. So we're creeping up on $1 billion business, or at least in illicit funds. Mm-hmm. We've got 270.2 tons of drugs, 971 vehicles. We've got a fleet times 10 of vehicles.
Yes,
it's just crazy.
83 boats.
Right?
Some of those boats.
40 planes.
Were really nice.
It's crazy.
Yeah, 40 planes. That's great.
Now, to me, what's interesting about this, well, yes, I mean, obviously these statistics are insane of how much illicit activities were going on, and EncroChat was kind of servicing those. And because law enforcement was able to breach that network and gain access to it and discover all this, they were obviously able to take down quite a few things. But EncroChat, I think, points out the fact that a tool is a tool, right? And its intent that makes it good or bad, right? The tool is never good. It's the intent behind the use of it that is good or bad. Because encryption, as we know, is good. Encrypted communications are good if you're using it for the purposes of safety of non-illicit things, right? So we look at things like encrypted email systems and encrypted text messages and encrypted cell phone communications. Man, I'm down with that. I want that. I want my stuff to be secured and safe. I don't want people eavesdropping in on my conversations, not because I'm doing anything illegal, but because my privacy is my privacy. And if I wanted the world to know, I'd put it on a blog post, which most people are happy to do. I'm not them, right? So I'm really interested in something like that for myself, which is why, you have Signal and Telegraph and all these other systems for communication that allow for some level of encryption. And encryption is good. We use it every day in our file systems. We use it every day to access websites, right? You go to HTTPS is what you want to go to and not otherwise. Why? Are you trying to hide something? Well, yes, you are trying to hide something. Your credit card numbers, your personal information that, if stolen, would be used to, for various and sundry crimes, as we can see right here. Yeah. So again, to me, that's what the most interesting thing about this was the amount of things that were bad that basically now got snuffed out and taken down, which is awesome. And the fact that the tool isn't the bad thing. It's the intent behind the use of it that makes right. You get the idea.
Yeah. EncroChat can't be blamed for the misuse of something that they've provided.
Well, unless they were intending for
it. If there was intent behind what they were, because it said they sold these phones, these encrypted phones sold for €1,000 each, right? But if I'm just a regular guy that's like, I just want my communication protected for my own sake, that's fine. But if EncroChat's purposefully seeking out and targeting these organized crime rings or whatever and saying like, hey, we'll offer this product to you, then you're kind of complicit.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like the NSO group out of Israel, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, is that the Pegasus thing?
They take a lot of flack because, and I think rightfully so, they seem to cater to a specific market where they say, oh, we're stopping terrorism. And it's like, but maybe you are stopping terrorism, but you also seem to be helping authoritarian regimes to basically spy on and oppress any opposition to their regime. Right? And it's like, how do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah.
If that is your intent and you're just saying that you're not, I don't know one way or the other. It definitely some interesting conversations with the people that run that group in the media. So go do your own research. But if your intention is to do that and just lie about it, then you are a bad organization. Your intention is wrong, even though you provide a service that could be used for good things.
Like you said, the sheer amount of stuff that was seized, especially like 30 million pills of chemical drugs, over 100 tons of cocaine. Anthony, you mentioned that you were surprised. We were talking before the show, and you were surprised at how much cannabis.
Yeah. 163 tons of weed.
Because basically, it's legal in a lot of places. So why is there still a market for it?
And in Europe, I'm sure. I mean, look at Amsterdam. It's been legalized there for long before it was legal in the U.S. But it's interesting. It's still something that's illicitly sold. The other thing I noticed, and this must be because it's the only way they could do it, they were Android devices.
Yeah.
So Apple devices wouldn't have allowed the modifications that they made to these devices.
Right, because Apple, they've got some really serious and stringent policies around what goes in their app store and how you interact with their devices and things like that. Yes.
For Better Call Saul fans, I'm sure you appreciated that this was a Better Call Saul episode. Yeah, he was selling phones that were encrypted to drug dealers. Oh, yeah. He actually gets a job in a cell phone store. He's at an all-time low. He's lost his law license, and he's in the cell phone store, and he comes up with this idea.
Oh,
let me market to local criminals so that their calls are not snooped on. So,
except in this case, it looked like national, international, organized crime.
Better Call Saul on a massive scale.
Yeah.
Outside of New Mexico.
Yeah.
Notice it led to the shutdown of some other encrypted services like Sky ECC and Anom were shut down. Anom was an anonymous chat service. They intercepted 27 million messages exchanged between gang members. Yikes.
Jeez.
Wowzers. Now so it's interesting to me. It seems like, yeah, that's what I'm going to be interested in seeing in the legal discourse, because when it comes to the legality around this thing, right? If I make a service of a cell phone that offers anonymity, and you have to prove criminal intent that I am specifically marketing to, this is how like cigarette companies got away with what they did for a long, long time, is because it was difficult to prove intent.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like whistleblowers and internal documents leaked that said, we are specifically making like Joe Camel a cartoon to market to children, which is illegal. Okay, now we've got you with the smoking gun per se, because we've got you saying internally that we are doing something illegal for illegal purposes. I would wonder if they can prove that in the court against EncroChat and Sky ECC and Anam. Is there any specific, like, hard evidence that shows them? Because if I go, me and you go, hey, let's get together and let's make an encrypted service for encrypted cell phone traffic.
Yep.
Let's make a cool business, and people are going to be safer because of it. And criminals start using it in droves, which they will. Right? Because that's what criminals do. They take advantage of any system they can to do criminal things because they're criminals and they don't care about the law. Do we go to jail, or do they shut our business down just because it can be abused by criminals? That's like, if we never had intent to do that, that seems unfair to us.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm looking up can't remember the service name, but there's a service in AWS now where you can encrypt all of your, communications with it. It's basically like API based, where if you have a chat service that you've developed, this will encrypt it. And so again, there's an AWS service that's publicly available for all, and because they didn't market it to drug cartels, I guess that's why it's stood up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, it's good to start off with the good old just criminal bust. I mean, it's great. You like to see that kind, like you said.
Yeah, I'm glad they took all that
bad guys
off.
behind bars, right? That's always behind. But it's almost like that's the name of the segment.
It's weird.
Crazy. It's like there's a reason for it. But we'll go ahead and move on to our next segment. Don't make no sense.
It make no sense. It make no sense. No, it make no sense. What you talking about, Willis?
I haven't heard that audio in a while with the song, so it caught me by surprise. Anyway, this article comes to us from Tech Radar. Google wants devs to promise they won't abuse the new Chrome ad API. So there's a new API for targeted ads that can be abused. It's been confirmed. Like, well, you could do this and take advantage of it, but just pinky promise that you won't is basically what Google is asking, right? So in my estimation, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, which would be why we chose it for this.
Again, these segment topics seem to really line up some.
They're really relevant.
Yeah. Anthony, what do you think about this thing?
This was hilarious. I couldn't even believe what I was reading, Pinky promise.
Yeah.
You won't take advantage. and someone in the article saying, well, it's not a technical solution, but we're good.
That was my favorite thing. Like, in the article, the guy says, let me see if I can find it here, how, it's not a technical solution, but we feel like it covers this for the most part. We'll consider it closed.
Yeah.
As an issue right now.
So,
is that what you're going to do?
It's just, we just trust you.
Yeah. We threw a Band-Aid on it, Yeah, I mean, you're pouring out a pint of blood per minute, but that Band-Aid is going to work. It's going to hold it together.
So what exactly is it about this API? How can it be abused? Did they go into detail at all about? They talked about like a fingerprinting attack.
Yeah.
That could lead to this?
Through this API, you can. There was discovered after the fact. So like Google developed this API before the attack was discovered. Obviously, right? 'Cause it's like the chicken can't come before the egg, or so on and so forth, right? So once that was discovered, they were like, oh snap. Well, we spent a lot of time and effort on this, and I really don't just want to chuck it to the fire. So here's what we'll do. We'll build a Band-Aid, right? The Band-Aid is, now that this is out there, and this fingerprint attack basically will allow an attacker to abuse this API to discover personal information like, who is this person? And that's bad, right? That violates privacy. And so, and through that, people always think, oh, what's the big deal if someone gets my name and phone number? It's like, it's called identity theft, and it's like a real big issue, right? So the more they know about you, the easier it is to do that. and then they, steal money and use that to do horrible things. So once they discovered this, they said, hey, we'll just make like a sign-up process. So anybody that wants to use this API, if you're a developer out there developing on top of it, that's cool. We don't take it away from you. You just sign up that you're going to be a part of this so you can have access to it. And you are going to pinky swear that you will not abuse this.
Unreal.
Consider it closed.
Yes.
Yeah. We're done with this issue for now. We don't feel like dealing with this. So I guess as a developer, would there be, other than just, would there be motivation to abuse it other than just you're just being a turd and you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to take advantage of this? Like, would there be a genuine advantage to even if you didn't have malintent?
I'm sure there is. I'm like you say, I'm not a developer for web applications. I'm sure there's plenty of. I don't actually know exactly what this API for Chrome. So designed. Oh, here it is. Designed to provide ads tailored to users' preferences.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the quote unquote advantage.
Yeah.
To a developer who is building on top of this. I can now better advertise to my user base.
I love the whole irony, right? The whole it doesn't make any sense. So this paragraph, the Topics API is part of the Google Privacy Sandbox that aims to maintain users' privacy while serving ads relevant to their interests. So if I'm going to find out your interests, then I just violated
literally
your
have
privacy.
to. Right. I don't understand this idea of, I understand the idea from a marketing standpoint for very focused ads.
Yeah.
Because the likelihood of someone clicking on the ad and purchasing through the ad, the click-through rate, as it were, is high. But as a consumer, that doesn't, I don't want you to know enough about me to give me targeted ads.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a scary proposition to me as a person sitting on the other end of that spectrum and going, so you're just learning my habits and my day, what I do. I remember I read an article about, I guess it was Google or somebody. I don't want to put a label on whoever it was, but the advertisement started coming through to this guy for pregnancy stuff, like diapers. And he's like, why am I getting all this? Come to find out his 17-year-old daughter was pregnant. Oh. And it knew before they did that she was pregnant based off of her surfing habits.
Yikes.
Right? She was having weird cravings and she was tired all the time, and things that she was looking up about herself on his phone started giving him targeted ads, and they found, and then so she took a pregnancy test because it was like, why is it giving this? And she took a pregnancy to come out to find out she was pregnant. And she didn't even know. Wow. But the algorithm did, based off of what it was gleaning about her and her surfing habits on his phone. So that kind of stuff scares me.
Yeah.
Right? That you would have that level of information about me, that you'd be able to target me that much. I don't like that. Yeah. Right? So I don't want targeted ads. I was showing Sophia the other day, right? Go into Google. There is an area inside, if you have a Google account, which I'm sure you do, go in there. There's an area in your settings to shut off targeted advertisements. Yeah. And in theory, that should turn those systems off. I'm sure it doesn't, but
I did turn it off. I turned off my targeted ad, whatever.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting all the ads I'm getting. I'm like, that's weird. Why am I getting an ad?
Right, because it doesn't know who you are.
No.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit like, okay, I'll just remove that ad, or I'll just say I'm not interested. But But it is kind of like, okay, it's a little reassuring. So they're not, they don't know.
I'm the weirdo that's out there that I'm like, I would happily pay $5 a month for Google to not get ads.
Yeah. I'll pay you in money, not my information.
Correct.
Yeah. I'd rather just
I'd rather just a straight up exchange of yes.
Can we handle this like professionals?
Yes.
Instead of you just taking all my information and telling me my daughter's pregnant before I even know.
But that's not as lucrative for them.
Yeah.
As the model that they currently use.
True, because they can sell your information, right? And they can use it
and
for all
to
kinds
multiple
of things.
different places.
Yeah.
Right?
I love the world we live in.
It's fun, isn't it?
I like that we had this article before this that was like, justice is served, and all these people, and now it's like, oh, this is great. This is really restoring my faith. This is, I guess, Google's second attempt, I think, at an interest-based advertising API, because the last one, federated learning something, it failed. It did not work for them. And it looks like third-party cookies are disappearing near the end of 2024. So they're trying to plug that gap, I guess, before that happens. So last time they tried this, it failed. It'll be interesting to see if this instance of them attempting to push this interest-based ad API.
They're convinced that it will make them a ton of money. So that's why they're continuing to push it.
Yeah. By the way, I did find the AWS service. It's a new one. That's why I couldn't recall it off the top of my head. It's Wicker.
Wicker. Yeah, that is a new one.
Wickr.
That's when that's if you're a witch that lives in the South. That's the religion you practice.
Gotcha.
I am curious about the origin of the name.
Yeah.
Must have something to do with encryption.
Oh, those Wickers are crazy.
Yep.
We love
Wasn't
them.
there a Wicker Man movie?
Yeah,
There
Wicker
was
Man.
a scary movie. Yeah. I never watched it, but I read
I didn't either.
the Wikipedia synopsis.
The Wicker. Oh, man. Well, this is the joke that keeps on giving, isn't it?
Continue that right through the second half too. Okay, so yeah, good. Fun fact: new Amazon tool, new AWS tool. You said it's called Wicker. WICKR. No E.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because who needs
Aerodynamic.
It would
Yeah.
secure messaging, collaboration, file sharing, screen sharing. So
you actually just kind of keyed my brain on something I've been thinking about, how like chat speak, how basically we don't really use good grammar and spelling when we're doing chat, right? SMS, that kind of stuff. And now that's kind of become pervasive and has bled out into email and other forms of written conversation where people are like, well, it's accepted practice, right? It's kind of like slang in written form and everybody just uses it. But I realized that is making it easier to or more difficult to spot phishing because they use poor grammar and spelling.
Great
But
point.
if everybody has poor grammar and spelling, you'll never catch it.
yeah, great point.
Right? It becomes the common, it removes it as a form of identification of phishing attempts because, well, yeah.
Because this is just normal.
I know how Joe talks and he's the worst speller on earth,
He never uses commas and
Yeah,
to me. It's
he
fine.
doesn't, he spells like a 3-year-old.
Now that I have Chat GPT responding as me, my chats have been just grammar.
Yeah, perfect. Grammatically,
Stellar. They're also very dramatic.
Very
as
descriptive,
Sophie and I
I'm
have
sure.
noticed.
Yeah. I text you or I Teams you and I ask like, hey, are we recording in the morning? And I get a response. Thank you so much for that thoughtful and interesting question.
We will go on a journey of education later today at 2 p.m.
We will share our various expertise on
Chat GPT is so flowery.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we actually don't have any articles on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Shockingly enough.
Yeah.
Usually we have something, but
Not ChatGPT specifically, but AI, yes.
True.
yeah, that's right.
Well,
AI
don't
is coming
spoil it. Don't spoil it. That's not till later.
Spoilers.
For now, I'm very excited about this one. This next segment is called
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, so, do.
I tried. I had to gear up for it, and I was too late. Anyway, so this article comes to us from The Verge. Sony's confidential PlayStation secrets just spilled because of a Sharpie. So this is part of an ongoing battle, basically, between Microsoft and the Federal Trade Commission, and then Sony's involved, and Activision's involved. And how have y'all been following this at all?
I have very little knowledge about this other than it is a
Yeah.
thing and there are
I've seen plenty of headlines. Never
court cases and things that are occurring, depositions,
Yep.
lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
So I spent a lot of time the last 24 hours trying to get all the information that I could on this. And I thought it was just going to be a quick little, let's just see kind of what's been going on.
But you have become the subject matter expert on this.
Evidently, yeah, of course, yeah. Watch, I'm going to talk about this and somebody's going to be like, actually, you're wrong. So correct me if I'm wrong, I guess.
That's called the internet.
But yeah, you can't avoid it, right? So this all of this technically started January of last year because Microsoft announced we're going to acquire Activision. Activision's the company that they make a lot of different games. Call of Duty is probably their most well-known one, but they also make Candy Crush. Fun fact. So Microsoft was like, we're acquiring this company. They were gonna merge, right? So December of last year, the Federal Trade Commission here in the U.S. was like, no, we don't think that's good for consumers. We think this is a bad idea. We want to try to stop it. So they file a lawsuit. But that trial is going to be an extensive trial. It's not set to start until August of this year. So in February, Microsoft announces we've got 10-year deals now with NVIDIA and Nintendo. So now they're allies and they're supporting Microsoft in this whole battle, right? They're also working on negotiations like in the UK and the EU, trying to convince regulators over there that this is good. The UK said no. They tried to block it, so they're working on appealing that right now. The EU said yes. Microsoft was going to be like, okay, we'll go forward with it. They got approval from a bunch of other countries too. I think Chile and South Africa and Saudi Arabia, among others. And so now the Federal Trade Commission is like, wait. You don't have our approval yet. We haven't had a chance to have our trial yet. You can't do this. So they filed a second lawsuit in federal court asking for a restraining order and an injunction preventing Microsoft from going forward with this deal until they have a chance to do this case. So that's the background. Sorry that was long.
What I'm hearing is it's like Microsoft was like, FTC trying to put the kibosh on this. If we get basically group acceptance of this in the other parts of the world, then they'll be kind of like pushed into letting us do this.
From my understanding. And I think had the EU not had regulators in the EU not said, this is fine with us, I don't think that this would be as much of a problem.
Yeah.
Part of the reason Microsoft is pushing so hard to get this done is because they've got a deadline of July 18th. If they do not finish this deal, close this deal by July 18th, they owe Activision $3 billion in breakup fees.
Woo.
So they're not trying to pay that, right? But this trial that the FTC is trying to push forward doesn't start till August 2nd. So they want to, stop Microsoft from doing this. So anyway, so Sony's involved in all this because they came out as a pretty big, opposition against, we don't want this happening.
Yeah.
And it comes down to Call of Duty, apparently, at the end of the day.
So this is where I kind of got kicked into this. So I saw the thing about the Call of Duty CEO, right? CEO, and he gave his deposition yesterday or day before or whenever it was. And I was like, what's going on here? And the fact that Call of Duty is such a monolith to the gaming industry. This is the hinge on which all the gaming world turns.
Yeah.
So the judge had the same reaction. Apparently, the judge presiding over this case, it was a 5-day trial this week that happened that's going to determine whether or not this injunction is granted. And the decision won't come out until after the July 4th holiday. So by the time this episode airs, there may be a decision that's come down. But the judge was like, all of this over a shooter video game? What's the big deal? That's a direct quote from this judge.
Oh, I love the judge.
Girl,
He's
me
never
too.
played.
He's like, I don't
never
get
thrown
it.
a Molotov cocktail.
She's this poor woman's she's like, I don't understand. Why is this such a big deal? So anyway,
I kind of see him as a Midwesterner. He's like, yeah, you got that Call of Duty there shooter game thing.
What's the big deal?
I don't understand the problem.
All this over a shoot 'em up video game. Yeah. And the Microsoft lawyer, the lawyer for Microsoft at one point was talking about how Sony's concerned that if this merger goes through, that if Microsoft acquires Activision, and both of their CEOs obviously have come out and been like, this is going to be good for the industry and for consumers. Sony's concerned, apparently, that if this happens, they will then eventually not have access to, Call of Duty won't be available on the PlayStation anymore, right?
Sure.
So, and that's a huge cash cow.
So is this a non-compete kind of?
Yeah.
Is that the angle they're going at?
I think they're going, they're saying that this would be bad for basically the gaming industry as a whole, specifically cloud gaming, that Microsoft's going to try to make this an exclusive, and the Game Pass too has become kind of an issue because there's certain games you can only get if you have the Xbox Game Pass. And so they're concerned that because Activision's going to be acquired by Microsoft, if this deal goes through, they're going to lose access. And Microsoft's like, we have no motivation to keep Call of Duty off of the PlayStation platform, right? That would be so bad for us. And Microsoft,
well, the money they would miss out on
exactly
for all the PlayStation, because there are, it's almost like religious sects out there, whether you're Xbox or PlayStation, Nintendo, right? And what is heresy to you and what is not?
And then you have the PC gamers that are like, you pros, consoles, you don't understand.
Yeah.
The purest form
If you're not
of religion.
using a keyboard, you're a dummy.
You're doing it wrong, right?
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
But Microsoft's lawyer said, basically Microsoft has no motivation to do that. And there's a direct quote. She said, they couldn't handle the wrath of the gamers. Yeah. That was a direct quote. And I thought that was so funny. It reminds me of a comic book title. Yeah. I just thought that was so funny. The wrath of the gamers. Fast and Furious 2, the wrath of the gamers. Yeah. So this whole thing with Sony now being involved, there were some documents they submitted to this trial, right? And they redacted some things in these documents. And that's what this article is all about. That's why I picked this article, because it's just so funny. It's not funny. It's so funny. So
it's funny, interesting, not funny, haha.
Yeah, not funny, haha, funny, weird. So they redacted this information with a Sharpie. And when they scan these documents in, you can kind of see through the Sharpie and see the information that was supposed to be redacted. So the court rushed to get these documents out of the public domain, but it was too late. People already downloaded them. So they're available in this Verge article. And a lot of the numbers that people were paying attention to were the numbers surrounding Call of Duty specifically. Because we know this is a big cash cow for Sony, right?
Yeah.
But specifically, I think close to 1 million PlayStation gamers only play Call of Duty. That is the only thing
it's spent 100% of their gaming time on Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, holy crap.
That's already 1 million gamers. If for whatever reason Sony does not, Call of Duty goes bye-bye on the PlayStation. So 1 million people potentially that are going to.
I guess Sony's argument will be that if they can't get it on PlayStation, then we will lose PlayStation players because they will have to jump over to Xbox.
Because it's all they play.
Right, because that's the only way to get to that game. Therefore, they will become, what's the word? apostate. Right? So to continue the religious theme on that.
Yes.
They will apostatize from PlayStation and become Xbox.
This article was so unintentionally funny. So you redact stuff with a Sharpie. Then if you scan it, you can kind of see it. And in their article, they're like, and so it appears to our eyes that they made 15.9 billion in a year. But it could be 13.9 billion.
Yeah.
Because the 5 could be.
Yeah, it could be.
We
Either
are
way.
just like the hackers, just like the public. We're just trying to read through the Sharpie.
It's like either way, that's including, the accessories, subscriptions, everything else. But I think even just it says Call of Duty was worth $800 million for PlayStation revenue in just the US during 2021.
Yeah.
But
it is
staggering. They
Yeah.
think the document says 1.5 billion globally, and that's just the game by itself.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that alone is
staggering.
crazy.
Yeah.
And that was just in 2021.
This is obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a ton of in-app purchases, right? I mean, once you buy the game,
like there is no
Yeah.
game now that doesn't have in-app purchases,
right?
right? Yeah.
But what they're doing is buying coins,
Skins
to
and
get
stuff
a
like
yeah,
that.
the whole nine.
rifle.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you're buying skins and things like that. There's all kinds of stuff that, upgrades and things you get inside the game.
By the way, quick aside, while it was shocking to learn that, there's so many people that are using their PlayStation for one thing, I then thought about myself. So I have an Xbox and I use it for one thing, Microsoft Flight Simulator. So
Really?
yeah, I mean, I've never thought to load any other game. That's why I bought the Xbox, and that's all that's on there.
I'm surprised. I guess that was an easier solution than like going for a gaming PC.
Yeah. I also
And
have
it's
Flight
much,
Sim on a gaming
much
PC.
less expensive.
Yeah, I just wanted to see it on my big screen, and I thought, what a cool thing that it's available for the Xbox now. So I went and got an Xbox for that purpose. Yeah,
So you're an Xbox guy, for at least for that
for
specifically.
Microsoft Flight Sim. Yeah,
I don't like. I don't have a console at this moment in time. I'm found myself to retro game a whole lot more. I really enjoy retro gaming. But if I were to get back into console gaming, I'd probably go Xbox.
Yeah. I personally, I'm an Xbox girl, but that's kind of just by default because it's what my older brother had, and he would get a new console, and the newest Xbox.
You know what gets me with
I would get the old one.
with PlayStation is their controller. Right,
Yeah.
the whole triangle circle.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, what is it? Press the triangle. Where the hell's the triangle? Like A, B, X, Y. I get. Here's A. Bam, hit it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to translate hieroglyphics to play on.
I now got to memorize a quadrilateral. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
You got to memorize.
yes, hieroglyphics.
A new
is great-
language.
yes.
You need the Rosetta Stone to play the PlayStation. So the other thing that I thought was interesting about this, again, these are all, you can go look at the article. The documents are there, and this is just their best estimation of what it says, but you can kind of see underneath the Sharpie what it probably says. So there was something else that was revealed that Sony only has one more Call of Duty game as part of its exclusive marketing deal with Activision. So that's supposed to be released late 2023. It might be a mobile game. I don't remember. But anyway, or it might be offered as a mobile game. I'm not sure.
yeah.
But anyway, so if that's the case, then I can see why, okay, well, this is it for us. If something happens and they decide to pull the rug out from under us. The other thing is, apparently half of PS5 owners, in their estimation, also have a Nintendo Switch. Now, because Nintendo signed this 10-year deal with Microsoft back in February, Microsoft acquires Activision. Nintendo doesn't really have to worry as much about this, I don't think, from what I understand. So who's to say that if you've got half of PS5 owners that also own a Nintendo Switch, and let's just say half of those PS5 owners only play Call of Duty on their PlayStation, if it goes bye-bye on the PlayStation, they go over to Switch, right? It's a non-issue for them.
I'm wondering if these organizations are not also collecting information about you while you play. How long you play, what you're buying.
Well, yeah, they have to be, right?
So this is obviously, to me, the big thing is that they are collecting information about you, and that is more important to them than anything. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
Right? Keep that in mind.
So this is kind of Call of Duty was already kind of at the center of this because that is the big money maker for them. But there's been other stuff that's come up too, like Microsoft's CEO, Nadella, I think. He had to testify this week. Bobby Kotick, who's this, I think I'm pronouncing that right, he's the CEO of Activision. He was giving his piece. I thought it was funny. They were, Nadella was testifying, and one of the things that they were talking about is he mentioned the mobile games specifically that Activision creates are particularly interesting to him, that market. And the lawyer asked him, "Do you play Candy Crush?" And he was like, "Yes,
This is
actually,
in
I
like
do."
official deposition.
This was in official. He was being, yeah.
Hey, I played at Candy Crush there too, Bob.
Yeah.
And, my nephew really enjoys the Call of Duty, so
I just thought that was funny.
Once
He's like,
I
"Do
got
you
a
play
high
Candy
score.
Crush?" Yeah, he's like, "You play Candy Crush?" And he's like, "Yeah, actually, I do." He's a Candy Crush enjoyer, so canonically, that is true. And
That's funny.
Of course, he got laughs for that. So anyway, I just thought this was interesting because it's such a. This is, if it goes through, if this deal goes through, it will be the most expensive consumer tech acquisition in history to ever happen.
crazy.
So if it goes through, even if it doesn't, it's still gonna be pretty expensive. It's gonna cost Microsoft a lot of money because that's $3 billion.
Either way, the ending of this is to our interest.
This is no small potatoes.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously for Microsoft and Activision, because they're the central players here. But Sony's not the one leveraging the lawsuit. They're there, but the FTC is the one that raised this flag in the first place. So maybe this will come back as Deja news in the future. But
I look forward to seeing the end game.
I've got like a whole timeline laid out. I don't think you understand. I got pages.
Notes.
Yeah.
I got into this. I got stuck in last night. I was
And
at
if
Starbucks,
Sophie
just
ever
hunched
needs
over.
to redact any portion of her notes,
Don't use a
she will
Sharpie.
not use a Sharpie. I saw a TV infomercial where they were selling a redactor. It showed like senior citizens before you throw it out. Yeah, and it supposedly redacts.
So if you really want to redact something, you use RID die. Right? You're familiar with RID? So RID is for a long time been if you need to dye something like your clothes, you go get some RID, you mix your clothes with it, and it dyes it that color. The black on that junk will never
not have
show
this issue.
anything.
Yeah.
So
scan it as much as
there you go, Sony. That's free advice for you.
That's
Get
free.
RID.
That's free 99.
Yeah, that's free 99.
What do you say? It's gratis. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Before we wrap this article, I know we've kind of beat this dead horse a little bit, but the other thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to say is that obviously aside from the concern that what if Call of Duty goes bye-bye on the PlayStation, even if that doesn't happen, Sony expressed concern that Xbox might sabotage the PlayStation versions of the game. So I don't know. You're going to give us a crappy version of Call of Duty and you're going to sabotage us, and of course Microsoft. That doesn't make sense. That would cause anger in the gaming community.
Right. People would start hating Call of Duty.
Right.
Because it sucks.
There would be an uprising.
Right. And if they found out it always sucks on PlayStation and Microsoft is like, we know they're doing it on purpose, then people are going to be like, well, screw you, Microsoft.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. People aren't dumb.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's always going to be a subsection of people that are like, I don't care if they're screwing PlayStation. I just want to play the game.
Microsoft is already making a bazillion from Halo, are they not? Isn't that a Microsoft?
Oh, yeah. That's a Microsoft game.
Yeah. So how greedy are they?
So it becomes like gamification to them. It's not like, oh, I've got enough. I remember the quote of John D. Rockefeller. How much money do you need, sir? And he's like, just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting because the cloud gaming stuff that's become so popular over the last several years is also kind of at the center of this, and that's part of why the UK blocked it initially. And there were a lot of concerns that were raised by regulatory committees and stuff.
Yeah.
They're worried about what this would mean for the cloud gaming market, that they would then corner the cloud gaming market and have exclusivity for these games. So it'll be interesting.
You would think the FTC would have skin in the game on this. Like Microsoft is a US based company, while PlayStation and Sony, on the other hand, are not.
Right.
So
that's true.
You do yourself a favor and the economy in the U.S. a favor.
You would think
by favoring them.
It sounds like this is one in a line of cases involving tech giants where the FTC has kind of cracked down and said absolutely not, this isn't happening. So interesting to see how this plays out.
Indeed.
Hopefully, I am hoping that we get to talk about this more in future episodes because, like I said, I've got a lot here. Okay. I could talk about this all day, but I won't do that because then that would be a very boring episode. So we'll go ahead and call it there for the first half of this episode of Technado. Don't go away. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be back with more security news. Tired of trying to schedule your team's time around in-person learning? Isn't it a bummer to spend thousands of dollars on travel for professional development? What if we said you can save money and time and still provide your team with the best training possible? The answer to your woes is live online training from ACI Learning. With live online training, we provide our top in-person courses in private, online, instructor-led formats. You get to provide professional development in a manner that fits today's expectations. Entertaining, convenient, and effective. Our exam-aligned courses inspire the full potential of your team. Visit virtual instructor-led training at ACI Learning for more info. Welcome back to the second half of Technado. We're going to get some more into security news in this half of the episode, and I know I ran a little bit long in the first half, so I'm going to try to make up for that. We'll go ahead, and I won't waste any more of your time. We will jump right into this next article. This comes to us from Ars Technica. Brave aims to curb practice of websites that port scan visitors. Now, I'm personally not a Brave user. I've heard a lot about it. I know people that use it. Personally, I have not tried my hand at that browser yet, but you guys both have kind of dabbled in this, haven't you?
I use Brave quite often.
Yeah,
okay.
And you've been doing so for years.
Yeah, for years. I've been using Brave since not immediately after it came out, but very close to.
Was this the browser where you were compensated for using it with
Yes,
crypto?
yes.
Okay.
And I think it still has that system built in.
Gotcha.
I don't
But you don't
partake
do
in it at all because I don't care to. I'm not a cryptocurrency person. Or nor do I care to be incentivized to do X, Y, or Z.
You don't want to be gifted crap coin for using the browser?
I don't know where this crap coin or not, honestly. Like, I don't care. Like, I literally, I'm my personality type is one that, like, I am me and I'm going to do me.
Yeah.
I don't need your influence.
And a browser with this much privacy wrapped around it spoke to you. So,
yes, because I'm, correct. Because I like my personal information.
Yep.
Being my personal information.
So starting in version 1.54, it says Brave will automatically block website port scanning. Is this something that I didn't realize this was like a common practice?
I did not either. This was free.
This is a thing, ladies and gentlemen.
To profile you, they are scanning your system, like without your permission.
Yeah, they learn about like what's going on internally on your network. What other systems do you have?
Yeah.
What other software are you running? Because not only can you do port scans, like what network services are available, but you can also utilizing basically JavaScript, the code that runs the page that you're on. It can even kind of like fingerprint and ID other installed technologies. Like, are you running things like Jenkins? Are you running a WordPress site? And is that locally installed on your system?
Goodness, not good. I'm installing Brave today.
Well, that's what I liked about this article was the fact that Brave was like, hey, there are these things that people are doing. We are the privacy-focused browser. By God, we are going to make this thing privacy locked down. And overall, I would say Brave is probably the most privacy-focused thing. You can you can build out other browsers to be as privacy-based, but this kind of bakes that in.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to hodgepodge it together. They're giving you that. They're focused on making that happen. That's what I like about them. Whether they do that effectively or not is maybe up for debate. But the intent behind it is that we want to give you folks out there that want privacy, the privacy you're looking for. We're going to do the best we can to make that happen.
This ties in nicely to the article we had earlier in this show about the, hey, don't abuse this tool. Honor system, because they were trying to do the same thing, fingerprint visitors.
Yes.
So if Brave is gonna, in this version is gonna automatically block this behavior, right? Does that mean that if you try to visit a website, like for instance, it listed a couple websites that apparently were found engaging in this. Chick-fil-A was one of them, which is interesting to me. Dang it, Chick-fil-A, I had faith in you. So if I try to visit Chick-fil-A's website on the Brave browser and it's trying to port scan me, right? Does that mean I won't be able to visit the site at all, or just that specific behavior will be blocked?
That just will not work. Yep. So since it's all run using JavaScript, like you can go and disable JavaScript in your browser completely if you like. And then you know how when you go to like New York Times ad and it goes, hey, you've already read a bunch of New York Times ads for free and we're a money-based thing. You shut that off, like you'll only get text. And it's a weird internet experience, but it does work.
Yeah.
Right? And you can read those ads, you can read those articles and you won't get a blocked page. It'll just pop right up. I've always just opened the source code and then there's the article.
Yeah.
You just drill down to where the article is, Control F and read the article. And bypass all those security controls. So there's actually a security framework called Beef that, BEEF, Beef, that utilizes this for command and control of browsers to targets through their browsers. You give them a link, they click on the link. It's meant to be like inserted into like a phishing attempt. Somebody clicks on the link and now you've hooked their browser and you have a whole framework and infrastructure to send commands, make it do things. Well, like port scan, what ports and stuff are open? You could do that through Beef. These sites are doing it to collect information about you. Like you said, fingerprint the user that is browsing to our site. Yeah. So this is why this is really interesting that Brave is like, nope, not on our watch, buddy. You can go in and set settings to make that not occur in your browser, or install a plugin to make that not occur. I think all the browsers support some plugin is available for them to be able to do this as well. I think Safari also kind of does this, not as well, but it does engage in this activity as well, baked in. So just interesting. I like where Brave's head is.
Yeah.
So this isn't the first instance of a browser trying to curb this activity or block this activity. Brave's not the first to try this.
No, they're not the only ones doing it. They're just it seems like they're the only ones. They're the ones that are doing it the best.
Oh, okay. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
And it seems like all these techniques, like the Google API we talked about, this technique of the port scanning, they're all attempts to come up with a way to fingerprint users beyond cookies because there's so much, even non-tech people know about cookies now. Right?
Yeah. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen?
Were you on NPR there for a second?
Yes. Good times. Good times.
So it's unfortunate that you even have to worry about something like this, but it's neat that now, I mean, not the only browser that's doing this, but it sounds like Brave's maybe doing it the best, at least for now. So you have an option to block that activity if you want to. Indeed. And if you're like me and didn't know what was happening until now you know that there might be certain websites that are scanning your ports and maybe you feel a little bit violated.
Yeah.
I feel a little violated.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. All right, cool. Well, I feel I'm ready to be done with that topic. That makes me sad. But I'm glad
off later.
Yeah, I'll go download Brave after this and make the switch over from my current browser. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next article. This is part of a segment called "Who Got Pwned."
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Fatality.
Indeed. So this article comes to us from Bleeping Computer. Siemens Energy confirms data breach after MOVEit data theft attack. We have talked about the MOVEit data theft attack quite a bit, haven't we?
Man, it is the gift that keeps on giving in the security world. I mean, this is one of the more... Man, who didn't they breach? It's probably a shorter list than who they did, right? And Siemens, if you're not familiar with Siemens, they are very popular in the ICS and SCADA space, critical infrastructure, industry, right? Automation in those worlds. So the fact that they have confirmed that the Klopp ransom gang did breach their systems and probably have access to data is like a real thing. Then what else do they have access to while they're in there? We have to wonder these things, because if they have access to source code for Siemens PLCs and all the other stuff that they use that's proprietary to their systems, which are in just about every single ICS system in the world, right? It's kind of a big deal. Not only them, though, but Schneider Electric, another huge player in the ICS SCADA world. Actually, one of my best friends works for Schneider Electric as a trainer for their systems. And I was like, dude, he came over last night. Me and his family came over and hung out with my family. We had dinner and let the kids play. And I was like, so what's up with the MOVEit thing there? And he's like, what? What's going on? I was like, oh, you haven't heard. And I explained. He goes, hold on, I got to text somebody real quick, right? He's like, one of my guys that I work with, he's like, that's his thing. So I can't wait to hear back from him on how they're handling that. I got a little inside baseball going on when it comes to Schneider Electric. So very cool to have that inside track. But these two major players in the ICS and SCADA place or space is a big deal. What I really found interesting about this article is it is following the... I feel like there's a playbook that has been disseminated between all the major players out there in the world that says, if a data breach occurs, here's what you do. Deny, or don't say anything. Wait until you have no choice but to admit that you've been breached, right? This is step 2 in the playbook. I actually wrote the steps down that I thought that they're going by. 3, deny that any access to sensitive information or user data occurred.
Yep.
Then you say, well, yes, user information was accessed or sensitive information was accessed, but not critical information, like not passwords, not this, not the other, right? Only like your name. Okay. Then a couple of days later, you admit that no, it was passwords and stuff, but they're hashed. So don't worry. And then you admit that, it was weak encryption. So they most likely, you start to see the stairs that they fall down, right? Then after that, you prepare for the supply chain attack. And then the last step is cry.
Yeah.
So
Can you take that last step and just kind of spread it out over all the other steps?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can crying is acceptable at any given step.
At any juncture, it's like the stages of grief. It's
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Driver's license information, that doesn't sound important.
Not at all. So
That's never used.
no,
That's never used. No. You
what
don't
would I want with that?
Yeah.
So they did detail at the end of this article a bunch of the other instances of clop ransomware,
Right.
stealing documents, right?
I like to call them the clop.
The clop. I think clop, and I think like a horse.
That's all I can think of is the clopping noise.
Yeah, exactly that.
Like Monty
exactly that.
Python, right?
The coconuts.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think of. But yeah, the clop is good too, I guess. The New York City Department of Education said they stole the sensitive personal information of up to 45,000 students. Yeah. So, sucks for those
good.
students. A couple states that said that their driver's licenses had been stolen in attacks. Just the whole list at the end of this article, if you feel like going to read it.
Yeah. But that critical infrastructure part, like
That does
because
stand out.
yeah, you got all the other attacks that come based off of stealing user identity, but did they that's what I'm worried about. Did they have access, and will this become a supply chain problem?
Yeah.
Right? As we've seen with other, like that's kind of been the trend this year, has been the first stage is gain that access. Second stage is once you have access to proprietary software and hardware code, use that to stage a supply chain attack. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping does not occur, that's not the other shoe that drops. Because if it's in the ICS and SCADA area, that causes major issues, a la Colonial Pipeline.
Yep.
You remember that was like a big deal. And drove gas prices up, caused real problems economically, could cause loss of human life and limb. This is the thing I'm worried about.
Yeah. Who cares about some driver's licenses? I don't want that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, all that stuff is bad.
But in the grand scheme,
Right.
and
This
on
is the
scale of
tip of that pyramid.
Look at what just happened with Southwest Airlines. That was supposedly not a hack. That was issues with their systems.
Right.
But it caused major disruption. Imagine when it is a hack.
Right.
And they can't get their systems back online quickly.
Nailed it.
I do think it's interesting that there was a confirmation, obviously, that Siemens was breached, right? But they say no critical data was stolen. Business operations were not impacted.
We'll see.
No critical data compromised. Operations not affected. But then I'm like, okay, so what was it then that was affected?
Yeah, that was step 3 of the playbook.
Okay,
Deny
Deny.
that anything sensitive or user was accessed.
Sounds a lot
Nope.
like why, doesn't
Nothing
it?
Yeah.
wrong here.
Because I remember, was it LastPass? Oh, yeah, no, don't worry.
Yeah.
Right? And then, you got to worry. Oh, then Fortinet, it's just what they do. Like, they always start off with, no.
Did I say that?
Yeah, there was a breach, but you're
Yeah.
You know it's bad if you have to read a long, wordy letter from the CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. A lot.
And that's what happened with LastPass.
Or a leaked email to employees or something like that. Yeah. So, okay, that's great. That's great to hear exactly who just got pwned this week. Awesome. Love that critical infrastructure is hopefully not being affected. Cool. Awesome. We'll go ahead and move on to our next article so that I don't spiral too much. This article comes to us from Ars Technica. Fears grow of deepfake ID scams following Progress hack. Hackers might seek to do more than extort companies. More at 6. I'm just kidding. We'll cover it right now. So Progress Corp is a Massachusetts-based. They make software, right? Business software.
They make MOVEit. This is another fallout from the clop.
Yeah. Everything's linked in today's.
It's all connected.
Yes. It is
Interlinked.
all connected. Yeah. So here we go again. Now, what's interesting about this, and it's not focused so much on the fact that this was the Progress, MOVEit, clop problem. It is more on next-gen threats, right? This is how we're taking the threats that we're used to, traditional threats like identity theft and identity scams, and moving it into the next generation of marrying that with new technologies like AI and deepfakes, right? So now we have systems that try to negate identity issues through like video, right? Oh, you got to make a video. Don't send me a picture. Send me a video. Well, now we got deepfake. And if I got all the right pieces of information through something like this, and the idea is that the Clop gang really hasn't been ransoming anybody. They thought, that's interesting. Well, what are they stealing from these organizations? Personal data. Okay, well, if you combine those two things together, AI deepfaking and like 11 Labs, voice, all that, and you can create a convincing deepfake to steal people's things like pensions, government assistance, right? All these other things become a part on the table. And this is a little quote I pulled out from here. It says, the number of deepfakes used in scams in just the first 3 months of 2023 outstripped all of 2022 and then some, according to the Miami-based SumSub, a verification platform of particularly high growth in Canada, the US, Germany, and UK. So in 3 months, we have not only eclipsed, but we've gone even farther as far as deepfake scams being on the rise. And now we see them not really going after that traditional ransomware attack, but just kind of like threatening to release these things.
There's also, I got to say, I just realized a huge Black Mirror episode plot here. So you pass away, the AI takes your identity and keeps you alive.
Yes.
How freaky is that?
Right. Another quote from the article. This is great. It says that California's Public Employees Retirement System, or CalPERS, the cloud hackers made off with the personal data of about roughly 770,000 retired members and their survivors. The data of recently deceased Americans was particularly valuable in the black market, said the private cybersecurity official involved in the investigations at several victims. Quote, you can open a credit card in a dead man's name, take out loans, redirect Social Security payments, sign up for food benefits. Who's going to ring the alarm? Yeah. No one, because no one knows. They're gone already, and they're taking advantage of that system. So that's why we're seeing this being on the rise. That's why we really need to, kind of get ahead of this. We're struggling to play catch up with how fast AI is evolving. And progressing. And that's why you got a lot of the main developer of the AI at Google quit and said that we have to stop now. Yeah. Right. It's growing faster than we ever anticipated. And it's becoming very accessible. And now we've got, criminal organizations utilizing it for even more advanced criminal activity. We really need to put the pause button on this so we can gain some more control back over this so we can stop this stuff.
Yeah, there was someone that was quoted as saying that they think that it'll be organized crime syndicates that really get the most use out of this to commit global identity fraud at obviously a massive scale, which is like, I hear stuff like this and I think of individuals, I guess, taking advantage of it. And I completely forget the angle of organized crime, that this is a huge thing that they could absolutely take advantage of.
It's probably because traditionally we see in our mind's eye organized crime as mafiosos.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, or
like the Yakuza.
They're classic.
Right.
They're classic.
They're organized in the sense that they have a large group of people. It's structured hierarchically, and money kicks up and down. It's almost like like a corporate enterprise.
Right.
Right. But it's made of a bunch of thugs. Yeah. Right. But now we're getting into more sophisticated idea. Like the idea behind organized crime is that they're very smart, technically as well as organizationally. Yeah. And that has bred a new level of concern that we really got to get ahead of.
A lot more crossover between crime syndicates and cyber criminals. Cyber crime syndicates, I guess.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, it's like a Venn diagram. That's great.
It is.
Loved it. I love that our security articles, it seems like, are always just like what's going wrong in the world, which is awesome. Love to hear it. Hopefully this does not come back as a Deja News article. Hopefully it doesn't get worse. Yeah. But I can understand why there would be fears of this. Because like you said, if you're dead, you're not going to ring the alarm that somebody's using your identity. You're dead. What do you care?
Yeah. I heard that if you do this scam early enough, you might make up to $2 million. Right, because of the longevity.
And if you're doing this to multiple people, using multiple identities,
that's just one, right?
You're set. You're set for life.
Big deal. Yep.
Wow, cool. New fear unlocked. That's awesome. So thank you for that one. I think Daniel might have picked that article. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it was all me.
Yeah,
appreciate
super
that.
Interesting.
With that, I do want to mention that Technado is sponsored by IT Pro. If you're watching on the Technado website, you can look for that big orange button that says sponsored by IT Pro. And if you click on that, it'll take you to the IT Pro website. That's our day job. That's what Daniel and Anthony and I do. And we love it. Well, I speak for myself. I love it. Can't speak for you guys. But if you want to support the podcast, go and check out that website. You can use the code Technado30 if you want a discount on your IT Pro membership. You can also check out ACI Learning's webinars and live on social events. Anthony and I had one a couple weeks ago that was a lot of fun. If you missed it live, you can always check it out on their YouTube channel and their LinkedIn. I also want to mention ACI Learning's got a new thing coming out called Cyber Skills. So this is protecting your business using cybersecurity training, and it is really cool. You can watch that webinar to learn more about it, or go to the website and check that out. And also, if you will be attending Black Hat in August, ACI Learning is going to have a booth there. It's booth 1589. That's going to be August 5th through the 10th in Vegas, right? That is
Yes,
in
indeed.
Vegas, right? Yeah.
It was in Vegas.
I'm not going, so I don't know. But if you're going to be there, go check out that booth. Say hi. We're going to have some folks out there that would love to talk to you. I think there's going to be a Mario Kart competition, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But with that said, I think that's going to do it for me. Anything I'm forgetting?
Good to go.
Good to go. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Technado. Thank you for filling in for us, Anthony.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Hope you all had a great July 4th holiday, and we'll see you next time.